Hello everybody and welcome to another one of my basing videos. This figure right here was painted on stream on my Twitch channel. I'll put a link to it in the description for you. This is from WizKids. It's one of their new figures. These are of the pre-primed variety, almost like a bones material type of a deal. This is the reverser. We did a little bit of a different type of a color scheme on that, did a little different skin tone for sure. So I will throw that link in for you. The base right here kind of goes along our bark and branch. Seriously, tree bark and a branch, just like a twig. That's all it is. And I've got plenty of basing videos that show that. Now, what we want to do, in addition to some snow effects, we want to do some of these. Oh, look at this blood effects right here. Very simple spatter. Now we are going to be using a little different type of material here. It's basically crushed glass. It's glass has been crushed up, ground up. We are not going to be doing the icicles, but look at this. See that nice little sparkly effect and see the semi-translucent effect? That is something that you get from this that you're not going to get from the usual type of snow. And I'm going to just pull out one here that's got, so right here, this is more of the sort of flock type of a snow that you see, and pretty much it does one type of snow. It does the fluffy white snow, not semi-melted or kind of icy or slushy or anything like that. And I have tried doing blood effects on this, and it doesn't go very well. It basically looks like red paint splattered on top of some kind of white foamy stuff. Whereas that one that I just showed you, because it's basically working with crystals, that really didn't have to be painted in. That just sort of happened because your blood effects sort of seep into the crystals. And we've got a couple of different things that we use, actually three. And these provide a different level. So this, as you can see, this is kind of a lighter material. It's also a bit thinner. That's what's going to give us the outer edges of the blood spatters. Then you've got the GW blood for the blood god. That is got the most body to it. It's the heaviest, the thickest material. That kind of provides a little bit of the blood structure because we want to do some stuff on him as well, like his face, maybe even on his hands. And then the ghost tint here. This is from Badger Miniatures. The fresh blood, ironically enough, dried blood. It's really dark, very, very dark. That kind of forms the darkest bit of our blood effect. Now we also are going to be using some grass tufts from Armored Wolf. We're going to go with this one right here. I think we used those on one of our recent army painting series, and there they are. Yeah, see those tufts on some of our bases, really nice. And we can actually scatter some of the snow onto that as well, make it look like, yeah, the grass has a little snow on it. But see some of those bases there, you can really see that slushiness there. It's not like the snow is completely melted, but it's got that little bit of melt to it. It's transparent again, which unfortunately the other effects, and I've tried, believe me, I've tried many times, many ways. So again, this is the effect that we're looking for. You say, well, you mean you just pour the crushed glass on there? No, no, we're not doing that. We are actually going to use this. This is the stuff that we would use actually for the icicles. We've used it to make flames, water effects. It's basically the everything. It's the every. It's like the elementium of all elements. It does everything. We're going to combine these two things together. We're going to make ourselves some snow. Now, the first thing we are going to do, however, is get these tufts onto our base. It's just going to take a few seconds. I just wanted to show you especially how well these things work with the amazing glue that just sticks to every surface. Let's get to that next. One of the things I wanted to point out here is the different size and shapes of the tufts here. You get a lot of stuff where they're very uniform, or there's kind of a small size, a middle size, a big size. Here you get all different sizes and shapes, some of these really small ones too. And there's a couple of other properties of these that's really nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to use just a little push pin type of a thing here. We're going to pull one of these off. And again, these are also a little bit flexible. Now here, I'm probably going to want a decent amount of snow piled there. What I'm going to do is maybe throw one right over here. That might not seem terribly interesting, but a lot of tufts where the glue is very brittle and very hard, it wasn't going to wrap over this mound. So that just a little something to keep in mind. Now, as we put some more of this out here, I don't know, do I really want a lot of grass tufts where we got rocks? Most likely not. This is probably the other area. And what I'm going to do is maybe snag something like this one right here. So we'll just pull that off of there. Situate that right over here. And maybe one over here, something like that. I like to, believe it or not, have these around the feet because sometimes, now this is one where it came with its own little base and I had to cut that away. And in the process of cutting that away, well, you expose some of the just the plastic, almost like a sprue in a way. And instead of trying to cut and carve all that away, I just let it set down inside some material here. You can see we built that up around his feet. But here, see, it's kind of nice having that little bit of grass stuff right there, just sort of covers up that seam. We actually have a GW skull here, and that's actually a 3D printed shield from a whole different army. It's been using him actually as Army of the Dead. Boy, I'm real tempted. You know what? I'm going to throw one more of these guys. See if this will work. Here, let's grab this one. I'm going to throw that right over here. See if that works. It may not. Here, I'm going to grab one of these really small ones, just for the heck of it, so you can see what we're talking about here. Let's throw that over there. So it's nice to have these different sizes of tufts. So that was easy enough, wasn't it? Stick some grass tufts on there instead of super glue. Believe me, because I'm working with other grass tufts and I have to super glue them and they stick to things where I don't want them to and they don't stick to what I do want them to. This, gosh, I've even seen it stick to wet oil paint practically. So next up, what we've got to do is we got to start doing some mixing of snow material here. So we're going to take the extra heavy gel and some of the fine crushed glass. We're going to mix these things together. I'm going to do that next. So a few tips for when you're handling this stuff. I mean, it's crushed glass after all. Now it's relatively heavy. It's not going to just float around in the air like, say, your weathering powders or something like a talcum type powder is going to, or mica flakes or whatever. But really not something you want to ingest. Definitely not. We all have masks now. Everybody's got masks. One of those simple cloth masks, more than good enough. Can't do that here because, well, you're not going to hear me so well. You could also wear some gloves. You could do that too. The way you see me handling this here, well, you're not really going to see any real contact with my fingers in this. Actually, this is one nice way. It's just the inside, basically a lid of a butter container. And instead of throwing it away, before I do that, I'll use it for stuff like this. And what this does, it actually gives me a little bit of a water trough right here. Actually, I'm going to get my water handy so you can have some water in here. It gives us the place to put the gel on one side and the fine on the other side because you don't want to mix up a whole big batch of this because you don't have a whole lot of working time. Working time is not infinite, so you want to work in small batches. And the only way to do it is just kind of have, again, one material here, one material here, and just let those blend together. Now, I've got some, basically just some junky brushes that I'll use here. I'm also going to grab, just something to use as a little bit of a water container right here, just so that we can have a place to put some water. So here we're going to grab this. And we're just going to put a little bit of water in there, like so. Just to have that handy. And you can have some larger brushes, some smaller brushes. It's just a junky old craft brush. It's relatively soft though. You're just going to make sure that I've got any sort of brush cleaner out of there. You can see I was just using this, probably just yesterday to do some basing. You got some of my, it's probably the Green Stuff World texture paste in there. So we're going to take some of this, and again, not too much. I'm going to pour this out here. Just stick with that much for right now. We can do more. Now, this gloss gel, again, it's the same stuff that we use for icicles and all other kinds of fun stuff. We're going to get some of this out here, like so. Blam. Now you can see just how I just call it structural. Look at this. This is why we can use it for flames. I use it for water effects on our ships right there. So you can see the waves right there. That was just done with the same material. You think I'm kidding about fire and such? Well, here we go. Look. The fire that's on here, at least the physical flame shapes, that was done with this. Took about 2 seconds. We got a flaming sword here. Look at that was done with the same material. The ice that you saw, or the icicles on this base and on my vehicles, it's all done the same way. But we don't necessarily need that much shape to it. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of water here, and we're going to thin this down just a little pinch right here. Not much, just a little bit. The other nice thing about this container is this glass right here. It might also get trapped in there instead of just going onto my workspace and kind of getting into other things. But you know what? We are keeping these things separate. Keeping these things separate. Now, the more of this material on the right that I put into my snow, well, the more translucent it's going to be, the more melted it's going to be. Whereas more of that crushed glass, it's more powdery it's going to look. You can do multiple layers of this as well. You could do a bunch of different layers. And I have other crushed glass tutorial. Look at, here's one where we also mixed some mud with it. So it's the same crushed glass snow, but this time there was some weathering powders thrown in there to make it look muddy. It's kind of up to you. It's basically the only limit is what you impose on it. Otherwise, it's pretty much unlimited. So let's not screw around with this too much here. I'm going to start taking some of this. And now we're going to start to get some of our crushed glass into there. And you can see it starts to dry out a little bit. And you can see how it's kind of coagulating a little bit here. And we're going to make sure that that stuff mixes in there very well. Again, the working time on this, it could be as little as about 15. Oh gosh, I don't even know if it could be 15 minutes. It could be less than that. So you can't dally with this. You got to be direct, mix it, use it, be done with it. I'm going to actually throw a little more of my crushed glass out here, because I'm thinking a little bit more of the sparkly type of snow here. Mix this up. When it comes to applying this, it's just a skill that you learn. It really is. Now we'll find ourselves a good spot, and a good spot is probably right here, I would say. I mean, it makes sense, right? The snow would pile up against this log. This is another reason why I also did not spend a lot of time painting the base. I made sure it was darker, but otherwise, not so much. So again, look at this. So here we don't have to, we're not piling up a ton of snow on the edge there, but look at this. We'll just get a little bit of that right along the edge there. We could throw some more powder on top of that if we wanted to. Oh boy, I think I should probably stick some down into there too, but for now we're just gonna throw a little bit of this right here, and we're gonna get that right up next to our skelly friend right there. And then we're also going to dry brush a little bit of our snow onto the grass there. Basically the idea is to have it kind of latch onto the high points of the grass. That's our goal right there. I'm also going to grab my smaller brushes here, or brush, because I would like a finer application of this by our little skelly friend here. Just going to make sure we've got this and the correct focus for you. Sometimes you can have some of the snow hanging over the edge of a ledge, so to speak. You could take a little bit of water as well, and that sort of helps you tamp this down. You want it to be relatively level. You don't want to see a whole bunch of brush strokes in there. That would look a little weird. And I'm also going to throw a little bit of snow down in there. And then maybe even a little bit of snow on top of the log. So you can see how that it's just easy to build that up. Nice and easy to build that up. So you throw a little bit more of that along here. I also have to make sure where I maybe want some blood effects to be in the snow. Well, better get some snow there, which means I think I'm going to put some snow here. And also is going to cover up some of that area around his feet where I just didn't really do much with the basting materials themselves, knowing that I was going to do this stuff. And see how that starts to build up around the shield. Now the shield looks like it's even more integrated into the base, like the snow has fallen around it, and the shield's not just like been placed there. Just 2 seconds ago, someone dropped a shield there. No, based on the condition of the skull, with the no flesh on it, I'm thinking that's been there a while. It's been there just a little while. Okay, I'm going to I don't know, I'm going to use the rest of the snow here. We're going to have to mix some more. We'll mix some more. Like I said, we could do many layers of this. We could do a second layer, a third layer, fourth layer, whatever you need. All right, I'm going to set him aside. We're going to come back here and mix some more. You want to wear gloves, wear the mask. All good, right? It's safety first. Safety first. And that's all. That's fine. No big deal. Don't want to make yourself uncomfortable or anything like that. But you can see there's a lot of the glass in there because you can see how it just kind of started to wind around the brush. So we've got ourselves another little batch of white fluffy snow. Move this aside. Let's get our reverser back out here. And here's one of those areas. I was talking about letting that hang over the edge. Oh, here's one. So see how that's almost starting to hang over the edge a little bit there? I mean, we could slap an icicle on the far side of that too. Right? Hanging over the edge. We could do that. Now, I don't want to cover up every last millimeter of the surface here because then at some point, well, why did I even bother with rock texture? I just could have put anything there. It's just a matter of finding enough here that we can get some blood effects. I'm thinking this hand here maybe should have some blood on, and that's why we're going to pile up a fair amount of snow here. We also we can't just have like a bunch of snow on one peak and then kind of none anywhere else. And the snow is very strong. That's the other thing too. It's really strong. I mean, it practically reconstitutes into glass again. So it's very, very, very strong. It's not going to break away or fall away. And it doesn't yellow or anything like that because, well, I did this months ago and this was done years ago. So now if you, if for some reason you did want to tint it with some kind of color, preferably not, say, yellow, you could do that too. It's just like when I'm using this for water effects, I will sometimes as like a secondary layer, and I actually have was a Patreon video that I did. Yeah, when I'm using this stuff as the heavy gloss gel as a water effect, and I actually did as a secondary layer. I did tint it with some turquoise. I think it was Achillean green, a contrast paint, and you could do the same with inks. Same thing. So I think you can see what we're doing. We're trying to just get this down into here. Let's get some more on this side by these little skelly friends over here. So we have to place it first, and then we shape it, sculpt it, place that, and then get it to flow around our little skulls over here. Let's get some more underneath their skulls. Again, I want to leave some of that ledge there, but see, we could do an icicle there. I'm not going to do that. I think we've got enough. We have enough things going on here. There's plenty going on. Sometimes too much of an effect is too much. And here again, we're piling that up. See, we can pile some more on there. And almost make it look like it's, again, flowing over that edge. Some more of our snow effects into here. I think I would like to put some on that log, so I think we'll do that as well. So here, with what we've got left, I'm going to do something like this. Doesn't, again, have to be super heavy. Doesn't have to cover the whole thing. And if it gets a little translucent, well, that's just going to show people that you've got a really nifty effect here that's not just the usual. See, we're even spraying that out like it's almost disappearing. You can't do that with the other stuff. I've tried so many times, tried combining materials together. It just doesn't work. It's designed to do different things. Different material, different things. Again, there's another area where, in theory, and that's the other thing too, you want to have those icicles. Well, then why is the snow like perfectly powdery white snow? Why is it not at least partially melted? You got an icicle hanging off of it. Icicles happen when snow melts, not when it's fresh fallen and fluffy. Throw a little more here, like so. I'm not going to throw it underneath the branch because, well, how does the snow get there? Their last little bit of snow. I'm just trying to close out some spots here. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this all have some time to set. Once it's set, once it's nice and hard and crystallized, then we're going to get into our bullet effects. Okay, let's use this last little bit over, I don't know, here. Just because. And you can see we're going to tamping that down, trying to, doesn't have to be perfectly level, but we also don't want it to look like, I don't know, he's been tramping all over this thing. We don't want it to look like waves. Again, that's what this material does really well. Get a little more on the snow on that grass. So you can see how it just kind of sits there on top of the blades of grass. Again, those are from Armored Wolf. Armored Wolf has been working hard to develop a whole range of grass tufts and flower tufts. So there you have it. There's your snow. It's all good. Wait for it to dry, and then we can get to it with all of our lovely little blood effects here. Let's do that next. So as I get into my blood effects, just wanted to show you again the three. So this darkest one that's over here, we talked about it before. That is the ghost tint, dried blood. In the middle, right over here, we have not just the middle color, but also this is the thickest of all three. That's the blood for the blood gone. That's your GW stuff there. And then last but not least, over here, we have this. So this is the true blood effect from Green Stuff World. It's lighter. It's also, as you can see, a little bit thinner. This is extremely thin right here. And this is most definitely the thickest by far. What I thought I would do is maybe try a little bit of this on his mouth here. I'm going to just grab myself one of my smaller brushes. This is a liner brush here. I'm just waiting for the last of this to set. And we're going to start here, I think, with some of the blood for the blood. No, actually, I'm going to go thinner than that. Yeah, let's thin this down a little bit. Also a little bit lighter here. Don't necessarily want to wipe out the entire tongue there. So we're starting out with something that's a little bit lighter here. Just want to make sure we're where you can see it. I'm just going to keep my hand there. Don't want all of his teeth to be completely covered either. You know, we could do some spatters of this on his face as well. And then here we're going to take the brush and have that come down this way too. Do some of that on this side of his face. So this is painted with oil paints, and like I said, I will leave in the description. There will be a link to the Twitch session where this was painted. I hit it with the usual Army Painter anti-shine to seal it up. And as you can see, these blood effects, they have no problems adhering whatsoever. So this is the Green Stuff World blood effects here, and you can see they're a little more translucent than, say, the GW stuff might be. Now I'm going to, speaking of the GW stuff, now we'll get into that. It's a little thicker. And I think we'll have some of that gather here. This does a couple of different things. It's obviously a bit of a color addition, but it's a little bit of texture here. That's got that glossiness, ironically enough. And a little bit of this translucency as well. And now that I'm starting to see, look at this. See how thick that is by comparison. Nice little change right here. You also have to consider that this piece right here, the jaw is attached, and that's another way of hiding that line. So we'll go say good enough with that. Now we're going to throw a little bit of this out. I'm looking, where's his hand? It's right over that batch of snow there. So I'm thinking I'm gonna just throw some of this over his hand. But look what happens. See how translucent that is? It sort of looks like a blood that's been smeared on his hands a little bit, as opposed to just plopped there. Let's throw a little more this way. And now we're going to start to, like in his fist there, sort of pull that up a little bit. So we'll pull that blood. Then we want to make sure we have, well, some of these drips coming down again. And then maybe some spatter this way, or just some smeared blood. So see this, how it just gets smeared that way? Now, what the heck? Let's do the other hand. So we're going to take some of the, again, the green stuff world. You see, we're just kind of putting some here. Think of it, it's almost like doing the streaking on like a vehicle, like the rust streaks or whatever. Just having that again here. We'll smear that with our, take my fingers and smear that. Let's do a little more this way. And now in the fist there. Take some. We could use some water with this too to thin it down some more. And probably we'll go over that maybe with a little bit of the dried blood too. All right, here, why don't we maybe have... Here's the dried blood. So it's thinner, but also darker, kind of looking like your coagulated blood there. Don't want to go crazy with it. Yeah, see, that might be too much. But hopefully you could see, so it's kind of dripped down this way, and there's a little bit more of it right there. All right, his mouth goes right over this. You can also have like a trail of it too, like he's walking along. We did that with the bird that you saw. All right, speaking of that water here, we're going to take some of that water. We are going to thin this down. It's going to go right here. And then we spread this out. Look at that. Huh? I mean, it looks, well, like a bloody snow cone. I'm going to do some of the GW stuff, maybe even thin that down a smidge. But now we're going to let that set there for a little bit. Here, let's do some over here now. Where's that? Thin down. Green stuff, world blood effect. To see how it just becomes like a little bit of spatter, and it really is absorbed into the snow. That is the amazing thing about it. I can see it. I can just see it getting absorbed into the snow. Such a cool effect. No pun intended. You know what? I'm actually going to let that sit there, but look at that. See how we can blend it out? Gets nice and soft. All right. To do this one over here. Let's not stick our hands in that snow. And that's going to go right over the top of this. Again, use the little bit of the water here. It's a little too much. Ah, there, look at that. See how that just gets faded into this? It's like it's being soaked in the snow. Why don't we do over here? Some dots. Again, like it's trailing along here. We'll maybe do some right here. Like so. Yeah, there we go. I mean, just it's that easy. It doesn't have to be difficult at all. Again, we'll spread that out as best as we can. Let's come back over here. And instead of using the GW stuff necessarily, I'm going to try the darker. Ah, boom. See that? But just small little dot of that, kind of inside that broader island of the lighter green stuff world. So kind of utilizing all three of these together. Can you see this? I think you can. Bam. Yeah, maybe some of the drops on the rock as well. So again, this is from Badger. Same folks that make the Steiner Res primer that we use all the time. And, well, and the airbrushes too. Oh, look at that, huh? Nice. Just so easy. Ah, incredibly easy. Doesn't have to be hard. It can be just that fun, just that easy. And I can see it just sort of spread out there. You know what? Oh, for fun, also going to do a little bit of the, let's see, like it just, again, goes right down his leg there. Right down his leg. Darken this. Maybe we will use a little bit of the GW blood effect there. I could also combine this with some of the same heavy gloss gel that we use to make the snow to thicken up the blood effects. Now, too much, you might end up with something that looks a little pink, and that's probably not what you're looking for. But you could extend it up. You're looking to make even more of a, like maybe even blood sickles hanging down off of his face. So the key though is the translucency. If we lose the translucency there, it just starts looking like red paint. And once it's just looking like red paint, you don't have too much. So here's a little bit of that's again the fresh blood from Badger that we are actually using as dried blood. I'm going to take another little peek here at these ears. I'm going to actually use a little bit of the thicker GW stuff, not because it's darker, but it also has a little height to it. And that, as they say, is that. Now, I'm going to let this dry and set. We'll take our pictures of it. Typically, in the closing credits, I like to have some pictures of what the finished product looks like. You can also see finished images of this, even more detailed images on my Instagram. And right there, scrolling along the bottom of the screen, that is the Twitch channel. That's where we painted this guy. But I'll throw a link for you there into the description. I try to do that as often as possible. Now, if you could do the like thing, and if you haven't done the subscribe thing, that would be appreciated too. I wouldn't want you to miss some of the fun stuff that we're doing here. And well, the Patreon page, that's where we did that dwarf series that I showed you. That was what, series 25? Actually on series 29. I just started that one. And if you do that Army Painter Pledge level, well, you get every single tutorial that I have ever filmed since 2013. That's not exaggeration, which means you're pushing about 900 hours of videos. Not kidding. And there are definitely lots of snow and blood effects tutorials among them that kind of take this onto larger subjects or more numerous subjects like armies and units. There we look at that. Very nice. So again, this is the WizKids. This is the WizKid Reverser. Aeorian Reverser, something like that. I think that's what it's called. Combine it with our snow effects and the Armored Wolf grass tufts and the Green Stuff World GW and Badger blood effects. I think we got something that's looking pretty fun. So again, thank you everybody. Really appreciate you watching this video. And again, if you could drop a like on it, well, that would that would be super. So thanks again everybody. I'll catch you on the next tutorial.